What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Kevin Jackwitz. This is a spoiler review for Fighting With My Family. And, there's really not a lot to spoil in this, to be very honest. Paige and Zach go to WWE. They get the call for the tryouts. Paige makes it, Zach does not. And that's really where Fighting With My Family starts. You have an opening cinematic where the whole family is wrestling together. Paige's family in England. They kind of had to coerce Paige into, going in there and putting on a show. And she really liked, the adrenaline rush and the attention from it. And then from there, we kind of move into the storyline that it is. And I said in the non-spoiler review that Jack Lowden was really the star of this movie. The brother of Paige, who did not get through, had a really hard time struggling with this. Had a really hard time struggling with, not thinking he was good enough, at least through the WWE's eyes. Believing in himself, but not really having them believe in him, and kind of crushing his dreams a little bit. And the downward spiral he went into, and kind of the resentment he started to have for Paige. And it really did sell very well. Like, his moments were the highlights of this movie, to be very honest. I think he really sold the emotional impact, the emotional struggles that he was having, the turmoil he was going through, the mental warfare of, what his next choice is really going to be. I thought they just nailed that part of the movie. And I was really, really happy that they kind of showcased that, because it does bring in a good question, because there's so many people who have these dreams of being a performer, and not just in WWE, but in general. And what happens when your dreams get crushed and you have nothing else to fall back on? It's like, you can't always put all your eggs in one basket. Sometimes it works out and magic happens. But what happens when that doesn't happen? Because for every person that gets into WWE or gets a music contract or whatever the case may be, gets into acting, how many people don't? And it's not that they don't want to. It's not even for lack of effort. Sometimes they just don't have that it factor. And so Zach's life, it just crumbled, and he's got this newborn baby, and he's trying to take care of it. And it really brings that, sharply into focus, which I really appreciate. Florence Pugh, I thought, was really good too. I feel like she really pulled off Paige as good as anyone could. They did a lot of changing the storyline, which I wasn't really the biggest fan of. There were a lot of things, especially about the last match. The sequence between AJ Lee and Paige, I wasn't really a big fan of. Because it really extended the fight. It was a very short fight in real life, because they wanted the dramatic effect in WWE, the kind of the shock factor. And there was a lot of magic there. AJ Lee, or AJ Mendez, the actual person, is phenomenal. She really is. Like, that girl on a microphone was magic. And Zelina Vega could not capture that magic. And I don't know that that's necessarily a knock to Zelina Vega. She just does not have those acting chops. She's a wrestler, okay, fine. Actor, not so much. And AJ Lee was very unique in that, for somebody her size, her very small girl, and not necessarily the best wrestler, she was amazing on a mic. She could cut promos like nobody in the business, to be honest. As far as women, I don't know that there's been a woman that can cut a promo quite like AJ Lee, past, present, or future. So there was something missing from that. And I understand they wanted to extend the last fight for dramatic effect in the movie. Gotta have something to kind of has the back and forth, and then Paige finally wins. I get that. But it was actually much better in real life. They kept it fairly short, and it had a very surprise ending, and that's kind of how WWE likes to play things sometimes for shock value. So I was a little bit disappointed there. Very interesting to see Lena Headey in this role. I thought she did very good. Nick Frost, again, very good. He had a lot of good comedic timing here. I was talking about the spot where you kind of saw in the trailer where he's with another wrestler, and they're asking if he'll do this for a match, he'll do this for a match. Um, and, the guys asked him, what does it feel like, because they were talking about taking a trash can lid to the face. And so Nick just grabs the lid and smashes it in his face. Ask if he'll take a bowling ball to the nuts. And it was really funny the way they set it up. So, I mean, the basic story, you've got not a very complicated premise here. And it essentially goes that Paige is trying to get Zach to pull his head out of his ass and focus on what's next in his life. And Paige is having a lot of doubts about how hard it is in the WWE, because it is very physically demanding despite what people think. And, at one point she's thinking about giving up, and Zach in turn is like kicking her in the ass saying, don't you dare quit, this is our dream, follow through with it. I know it's tough, but you've got this. And so she stuck with it, and of course changes women's wrestling. Her and AJ Lee were very, very instrumental in changing what was WWE's Divas division into this women's revolution that they have now. And it is a very cool, inspirational story. It had some humor to it. It had some heart to it. Vince Vaughn, at one point, is talking to AJ Lee, and I started mentioning this in my non-spoiler review, and he's talking about, she's demanding that they take her brother, and if they don't take her brother, she's not going. And Vince Vaughn gives her an ultimatum, and he's like, look, he's just not what we're looking for. He doesn't have that it factor. And it goes back to what I was talking about, is like, sometimes no matter what you do in life, you have to pick a different path. You have to find what you're best suited at, because in some cases, as much as it sucks, your best is not good enough. And in cases like the WWE, it's not going to be good enough. They're looking for somebody who is a good wrestler, who is a good promo talker, who has a certain look about them. And sometimes it doesn't all fit together. And that sucks, and it is what it is. And so it was kind of it's kind of interesting, because you don't see Hollywood do that a lot, where it's hard life lessons like that in the movie. But it was really true to what it was, and I thought that sold very well. The Rock, again, not much screen time. He's doing his Rock promo in the movie, like Paige and Zach, they meet The Rock for the first time. Zach keeps interrupting The Rock. And eventually he asks, what kind of advice he would have for wanting to win over the crowd. And The Rock does his Rock promo, and he's like, that's how you win over the crowd. And it was really funny, because he had a bunch of one-liners in a row, and that's something that Dwayne Johnson is very, very good at. He's really good at comedy, and he's really good at throwing in insults. So that was a phenomenal little piece in the movie right there. It was a good movie. It did have inspiration. It did have comedy. It did have, some hard life truths. So I did appreciate it. Now, I will say, being a wrestling fan, being a Paige fan, and being an AJ Lee fan, I felt that there was some things that were just lacking, some kind of intangible things that I can't really place my finger on. I felt like it was a good movie, and I was into it, but I was not as into it as I expected to be. And I really couldn't tell you why, to be honest. There was just some things that just did not hit me the right way. So that is what it is. Maybe it's just personal flavor. I still give it a 7.5 out of 10, though, I think. It's a 7 out of 10. And I think 7 out of 10 is fair. I thought it was good. It was entertaining. Not great. And there you go. So, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, there's really not much to spoil in this. I'm just talking to, share my thoughts on what they did with the storyline and the acting, which I thought was very good. So there you go. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, hit the like button, subscribe, and share. My name is Kevin Jackowitz. Kaged Nation, out.
Do it! Just do it!